Another kind of chart that we see a lot in real life are pie charts. So we're going to take the same data we had in the bar chart example, and we're going to construct a pie chart with it. So we're going to use age groups for the names of the categories, and we're going to construct a pie chart with these values here. Okay? So to construct a pie chart, it's very similar to a bar chart, but some of the words we use are different. So we start off with pi. That tells the computer we want to make a pie chart. And then it requires two lists of arguments. So it requires an x. The x are the size or the frequencies or relative frequencies of each slice of the pie. Okay? Tells you how big each slice of the pie is going to be. And the labels are the category labels. Okay? When we did bar charts and we plugged in to the bar plot function, instead of x, we use the word height. Instead of labels, we use the word names. Okay? But it means exactly the same thing here. Okay? Whatever it is, this guy just tells you how big that piece is going to be. And this is just telling you what to call it. Okay? So we can actually use exactly the same lists of values that we use for the bar plot function. Okay? So for x, that means, let's pull over my calculator here. That's not my calculator. Here we go. Let's pull over my calculator. So we'll take our proportions, which again was the 19.11%, 43.37%, and the 37.52%. Exactly what I did in the bar plot example. I'm combining these three values into a list, okay, separated with commas, and I'm naming the list proportions. Then I'm going to get my list of labels. I put my labels in double quotes, so the computer knows that these are labels and not something that it should try to understand. Okay, so the first label is children. The second label is working age adults. The last label is retirees. Again, I started off with the C, so I say, telling the computer I'm combining these into a list with parentheses so that the computer knows anything in the parentheses is in the list. The labels are between double quotes. And after each label, I have a comma to say, okay, now we're going on to the next label. Okay? And then once I have all that done, I am naming this list age groups so I could talk about it later. So whenever the computer sees the word age groups, it'll know, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that list of labels up there. Okay? And then finally, we're going to call that pi function. So pi. We're going to start with the size of each pie, that x value, okay? This value right here. That's the size of each slice. That's the proportions, okay? Now I could write x equals proportions. We're going to use x as the first argument for a lot of functions in this class. So when that happens, I like to just leave it off. The computer will still understand what you mean. As long as it's just that first value, it'll understand what you mean. Sometimes the other values no. But the x always comes first, so it knows that that's going to be the first one. If you want to do x equals, that'll work fine. But I'm going to leave it off, and the computer is going to understand that just fine. It'll understand, oh, that's the first argument. That's the first thing you're telling me, so that must be what the x is. That's the size of each slice. Okay? I will use labels equals for the second one. Age groups. Okay, so now it knows, okay, this is the size of each slice, and then the label of each slice, that's found in the list named age groups. Okay, that's in parentheses, so the computer knows we want to make a pie chart, and in parentheses is the information it needs to make that pie chart. Okay, click evaluate. And if you scroll down, you have a pie chart. The size of each slice is according to the number we picked. Okay, and then you could see that each slice is labeled using the labels we told it to use. Okay? Now, pie charts have their place, but in real life, bar charts tend to be the better choice. And in most situations, there are situations where pie charts are better. Pie charts are really good with dealing with relative proportions or relative frequencies because you can see that it's part of a whole. And sometimes it's easy to see with a pie chart when a section makes up 25% or 50% of a whole, okay? But a lot of times, in most situations that we need it, bar charts are the better choice. So let's take a look at why that might be. And there's a great illustration in the book which I'm going to use. This one right here. So here we have 3 different pie charts, okay? And then we have the corresponding data as it would look in bar charts. So we have data for A as a pie chart and a bar chart. And this is just an example, so the data doesn't mean anything. But we just wanted to see the same data represented as a pie chart and a bar chart. Okay, same data for B, and same data for C. Okay, pie chart and bar chart. Notice in each case, the pie charts, they all look pretty darn near the same, right? It's very hard if I look at any one of these pie charts, say here, is section 1 bigger? Let me use a different color. Section 1 bigger, or is section 2 bigger? It's really hard to look at. Maybe if you stare at it long enough, you could come to a conclusion. But it's really hard to make that determination. If I were to ask you, what's the biggest slice of this pie? Looking at the pie chart, you might be able to come up with the right answer, but it's a little hard to see, right? Whereas if I look at the bar chart, we could immediately see that 1 is the smallest slice, 5 is the biggest slice, and we could see, that we're increasing in size going from 1 to 5. Same's true with the next one. Here, very hard to see what's the biggest slice. It's slice 4. It's very hard to tell that. But if you look at the bar chart, which has, using the same data, bar chart is much easier to read. Okay? So pie charts are commonly used in business and media and all kinds of things. But most of the time in real life, a bar chart is actually the better tool to use. So just, going forward, keep that in mind. Bar charts tend to be the better choice.